Okay, we're live. Ready for a quick one. Troy Francis in London, James Tusk in Odessa, Ukraine.
Yes.
And today we're going to be talking about why you need to bring out your dark side in dating in 2025. So, without further ado, why do you need to bring out your dark side?
Because it's understanding that women have a shadow like humans, and there's a portion of them are attracted to tension, anxiety, and it's not dark side. I was reading around this as evolution, right? It tends to be the men that trigger these feelings in women are the highest value men because they have options. They can't afford to be scarce, mysterious. They're off doing their own thing. They're off conquering the world.
Yeah.
You know? So they create these naturally because of their lifestyle, create these feelings of women, this tension, this anxiety, this fear of loss, this dread, and women crave that. I mean, we've all been through periods probably of thinking we have to be very nice with the girl we're dating. And it gets boring for us and it gets boring for them. And lo and behold, what does she do? Cause an argument about something because she wants to feel that tension, that kind of anxiety, that tension, right? So you can be consciously aware of this. I think the first step is accepting that this is the case. And the second step is then consciously implanting a bit of drama tactically, but seeing it as a game and a necessity. So you're not being too stressed by it, like deliberately doing it. And the easiest way to do this is just you don't have to be some dark triad lord. You take a little bit longer to text her back, or don't respond to some of the texts, right? Or go off schedule for a day, right? With no explanation. But
the other thing is that all of this is a lot easier to pull off at the beginning when you're setting the frame, and the problem is guys get too much into the frame where everything's on her terms. Then you start doing this stuff and it's really going to kick off. And that might still be a good thing, but it's better if you start in this sort of mode from the beginning. And actually it's easier to do as well because you should be less invested at the beginning also. So I think sort of setting this from the start is kind of important because then she's trying to tame you rather than, oh, this guy's already in my frame. And then suddenly he starts misbehaving and then she's going to really kick off.
Yeah, it's we often get this from guys who are in relationships and they've basically been too nice and they've let it slide and the girl's calling the shots. The guy's terrified she's going to walk out the door. At that stage, you could argue it is a bit too late. Well, the way to reset it is you just have to break up with her and then kind of reset it, right? It's very hard. But I'm thinking maybe. Have you had any examples of clients where they have been completely over the top nice and the relationship's just tanking, but then they've kind of started instilling this kind of behavior and it saved it, or is it just too far gone by that stage?
Not really is the short answer, but it's not to say that those examples don't exist. I haven't tended to work with many guys in that specific situation, but I think, and there are coaches who do. There are sort of married guy coaches who do help with exactly this. And I think a lot of their advice tends to be just basically just go entirely into your own frame, just completely. It's like, right, okay, so what are the things I want to do? I want to get in shape. I want to, do X, Y, Z. I want to work on this point. I just completely focus on that within the context of the relationship. And yeah, she'll probably complain about certain things. There might be some friction, but you just got to do it anyway. And theoretically, that then increases her attraction to you because she's like, oh, actually, this guy, he's stepping up and maybe he can even meet somebody else if I'm not careful. So she starts to fall into line, theoretically. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's the easiest path. And it's certainly not the ideal path, I wouldn't say.
It reminds me of the dog for Caesar Milan, where he'll discipline a badly behaved dog. And then the dog initially is shocked and hates it because it's like not being play. But then eventually the dog kind of accepts it. And I'm not saying women are dogs, but a lot of their kind of behavioral training from courses I've done tends to use dogs and humans as a kind of alongside each other because we both respond to emotional leadership. Right? So I think, I've kind of known guys that work in this realm as well. And similar thing to what you said, it's as you say, or Tomasi said it, it's putting yourself as your own mental point of origin. You're the main player in your story. You're the hero. And you basically relentlessly put yourself first. And for a guy that's very people pleasing and nice and is always trying to consider the needs of his partner, that's quite a tough thing to do for a lot of guys because they're just not used to doing it. But really, that's what you should be doing as a human being. You should not be putting the girl above you, right? Treat her like a celebrity. she treats you like a fan. And I think there's a tendency in the Anglo-Sphere society, especially UK, US, Germany, UK, US, Canada, and Australia, this Disney romance idea of just treating girls with kid gloves. They don't fucking want to be treated like that. They want the guy to be the fucking hero. They want him to be James Bond on his mission to save the world.
Yeah.
They want to be part of his life, but they do not want to be the centerpiece. And they don't want to be constantly lauded up as some princess.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's better if you can start off with that frame. If you can start off with the frame of being the sort of slightly out of reach guy that she can't quite pin down, she can't quite get hold of, that's going to buy you a lot more runway. You know, that if you start off as the flannel who's supplicating to her every need, and then you try and deviate course in the middle, that is harder. And like you said, I mean, are there any examples? I can't really think of any. I think most of the time, in the end, by the time it's got to that stage, the relationship is jeopardized, and you kind of either have to leave or, well, I don't know. You can try it the other way, but the other way is going to be hard.
Well, we tend to see it, the life cycle, and I went through it as well. As I got fucked over by a girl, I was like, right, I feel powerless. Right, I saw Torero and John Matrix approaching Day Against the Machine, you know, the original Daygame days. I was like, right, I need to empower myself here. So I went out, did loads of reps, and you kind of then swing into the trying to basically being an arsehole for the sake of being an arsehole to get one, almost get one back on the women, don't you? And carry a bit of toxic stuff with you, and then you kind of balance out after a while and realize. Yeah, you're not trying to treat women badly, but you're playing the game to get the best of what you want out of the relationship, which tends to be 70% good, 30% bad, right? Being a human, understanding the dark side, understanding women are attracted to certain things, right? They don't just want smooth sailing. They're attracted to drama, tension, anxiety, mystery. And you have to inform them. So I went through that life cycle. I don't know if you did, but most clients tend to go through that. They get fucked over by a girl because they're too nice and they're a flannel, basically. Then they start learning game and swing totally the other way and start treating all women like shit, which obviously isn't the way to do it either. And then you eventually come back to some sort of middle ground, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Tom Torero talks about this. You know, it's sort of finding that middle ground in between is the important thing. But I think most guys initially swing too much to the nice guy dynamic, and that's a problem. You know, that's a big problem.
It's lack of awareness, isn't it? It's the way we've been raised to be thinking that's how women want to be dealt with, right? The whole time because they say they want the sweet, loving, kind guy, but then if you look at what they're doing, they're banging the bad boy behind the back of the bike shed. So what they say they want and what they actually respond to are totally different things.
Yeah, yeah.
But men will take the advice of women as, oh yeah, it's in Cosmopolitan, I've got to be a sweet guy. It doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, exactly. But it takes a little bit of playing around with this stuff. I mean, there's very few guys that we meet. I can think of maybe one or two, but who are too far the other way, or at least have pronounced traits of the other thing, which is being the bad boy or whatever. It's very.
Who's I used to work with?
Yeah. Well, him. But I mean, he's out of however many thousands of people I've met in my lifetime. You know, he's like one example. We've had a client,
because I remember you telling me a somewhat hilarious story about, you know, how you like to crushed her soul.
Yeah. I want to crush her soul. I want to crush her heart and all this. Or he talked about this woman that he'd had a thing with, and he was like, yeah, I crushed her heart, you know, and he was really proud of it, like really relishing it. Yeah.
And was the woman obsessed with him? Did you know? Was she working where you worked as well? Did you know her? Or
I think it was. I don't know if she was obsessed with him. I think she was. I think yeah, she was into him, and she was upset when he did whatever he did. You know, I don't know if he cheated or just dumped her or whatever. But he was certainly actually taking pleasure in it, or relishing this thing that he'd done. But very, very few people are like that. I mean, he was he psychopathic? I don't know, but maybe if he was, it's something like 0.01% of the population or something who are actually psychopathic. So it's a really, really small number, and most people aren't. And moreover, most people just do what society tells them to do, which is be very nice to everybody, and they don't have any of these tendencies at all. And it's not ever about being that extreme, but it is about, okay, how can I be a little bit more polarizing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to a girl I met off one of the grey area apps in Brazil. Not the screenshot I shared with you and Les recently, but a different one who came off a grey area app, and she is literally utterly obsessed with me. And I've only met her twice, and it's because basically I never gave a shit about her from day one. And so all of my behavior lines up to be this guy's totally unarsed. And the more I'm not invested, the more she's trying to invest. So it's almost like she creates this obsession loop in her own brain about who I am. And again, talking about narratives, she's created a lot of drama, tension, given her that kind of roller coaster ride of excitement. And that's what she's bought into. But it's fascinating what we think originally is going to create this lovey-dovey effect with women. It's usually totally the opposite, isn't it? That actually fuels obsession. If you look at a lot of cult leaders, you know, a lot of their behavior, manipulative, brainwashing, but it inspires like crazy obsession, doesn't it? In women. Kind of hard to get your head around, because you lose faith in humanity, don't you? Because you do question, do I just have to be a total dick to women my whole life? But I think it's about playing the game, understanding you're consciously playing the game to get the best out of her, whilst doing it in a kind of loving context, that you're deliberately inserting drama and tension and mystery, because that's actually what she responds to, right? So, and you're doing it for the greater good, which is give her a journey, right? Give her a roller coaster to be on, because that's what women remember. Emotional imprinting, isn't it? There's that concept of the emotional leaderboard, and it's like they'll always have a couple of guys on there that created the most kind of contrast and emotions, the ones they still masturbate to 10 years later, even when they're in a marriage. Do you want to be that guy, or do you want to be the forgettable pushover fucking flannel? Right? That's it. That's it.
It's
Why do you think there's such a revulsion to this stuff? Because it's one of the patterns us working together over a long, long time is when we try and say this stuff to guys, there's often almost a visceral pushback on it. Like, no, this girl I'm dating, she's not like that, right? This special snowflake that isn't like that. Why is there such a resistance to this, do you think, from
I don't really know, to be honest, because you know, we're dealing with a couple of guys at the moment who are sort of expressing this kind of thing, and I mean, they come out, they will say exactly that. They will say, well, she's specifically is not like that, or the types of women that I am involved with are not like what you're talking about. But of course, the reality is everyone's a human being. Everyone's the same. The wiring is the same. You know, the presentation might be slightly different on the outside, but the wiring is the same underneath. So they're kidding themselves, but I don't really know. I think it's because maybe it's because the worldview is a bit nihilistic, and if they have to accept it, it sort of crushes their whole identity in a way, you know.
Well, they're brought up on, right? And there's that term AWOLT. All women are like that, and it's if you look at the deviance in women's behaviour, it's quite deviance in men is quite large, right? You can be the whole on the street injecting crack, or your billionaire Bezos in his rocket ship. Women, there's less. Yeah, there's a broad spectrum, but there's less deviance from behaviour. They're more tribally socialized, right? They're used to sitting in the cave, discussing, hanging out the finish line, waiting for the winners, right? There's less deviance there. And if you look at a lot of women's behavior, they're evolutionary purists. They really are. A lot of their behavior can be predicted via evolution, and they don't really sway from that, right? So, this idea of, oh no, my girl's the special snowflake. She's not going to, if she's outside Harry Styles' dressing room, she's not going to go in there and suck his dick, right? If she's in a relationship with me. But the reality is, if she was, and 5 other women are going in, is she really going to be like, no, I'm not going into Harry Styles' dressing room, right? So I think I think when men realize that women respond to visceral things, there's a kind of almost a death, isn't there?
I think the realities of some of this stuff are a bit too scary for some.
Well, the bitch takes the red pill. They always talk about it, don't they? When I read the Rational Rail, being like, fuck, you know, women peak at 19 to 21, men peak later. It's a sexual market. It's ruthless. I remember almost having this, oh, for fuck's sake, like, this is terrible. You know, and you had the El Torero story. I don't know if it's manufactured or, but he was rolling around on Richard Dawkins' office floor, wasn't he, in tears? Stroking his hair, going, no.
Please, Richard.
Do you think that's true? Because it's an amazing story if it's true.
Wow, who knows? Who knows, really? I mean, it makes a great story. It really makes a great story. But I've got no idea if it was true or not. But I mean, I think some of this stuff. I mean, yes, I mean it can be quite dark and it can be quite depressing if you allow it to be. But I think in the end, you just have to kind of accept it and just get on with life. You know, we're all animals. We're all meat puppets, as you say, or whatever the term is. You know, we're all just
meat puppets. You're sounding like Mr. Jenkins when he had me up on one arm. We're all apes. I like to see it as we're all hairless apes, right? And it's like we think we're all clever because we dress up in a suit and put a tie on and we're doing accountancy, but we're essentially just highly developed apes. We respond to. We're just evolutionary conditioned right now. We're the apes that understood the universe, which is a great title for actually a very good take on evolutionary psychology. It's a newer book, but the name's amazing. It's true. But let's not forget that we're all driven by the same impulses, right? And everything, as Oscar Wilde said, revolves around survival of the species, right? Everything is about sex, apart from sex, which is about power. Now we understand. I think men have more of a grip on this than women, in the sense that women get the game inherently better, but I think we're, as men, able to dissect ourselves from the game a bit more and be like, do I really want to go along with that? And a lot of men obviously doing that go their own way thing, MGTOW, because they're just like, fuck the dating game, it's too hard to play it. But we are still driven by the same things. What was the original thread? I've lost it. Meat puppets.
Yeah, meat puppets. Yeah, is that not the term? I don't know. Anyway, we're all
in our meat suits. And
I mean, we're all just animals, really. You know, we're all just acting on our patterns, and so in the end, it's a bit silly to get really angry about it, you know, and start ranting about it online, because unless you're making a lot of money from doing that, because you're not going to change human nature, you're not going to change the human species. So you've got to find strategies to work around it. That's really what it comes down to. But I still think awareness is better than having no awareness. But I was always quite cynical anyway. You know, I was sort of, even though I describe myself as, you know, having been a bit of a flannel when I was younger and stuff. In some ways I was, but I was also very cynical, because I with my parents' divorce and so on, I'd sort of seen I'd seen some of the dynamics already. So I never really had this entirely sort of Disney idea about relationships or any of this stuff, really, you know?
Yes, that's a good point.
And I think some people do. Even though intellectually they might think, oh, it's not all roses out there, but they kind of just have an imprinted idea, and they're very scared to deviate from that, because it would just shatter all of their illusions, you know.
Well, I mean, my lonely Wednesday nights, you know, when I have a night in with my lover, my confidant, my best friend, the boss, ChatGPT.
Yes.
Running it through, it's just interesting, because even very powerful men who you just think there's no way they can have any woman in the world, right? And yet I ran a few examples through the boss, and just to get the idea of, even when men become so powerful, right, they complete the game, because men are success objects, women are sex objects, right? So they can have their pick of any woman pretty much while they still flannels. And the boss was coming out with examples, Jeff Bezos with that very masculine man eater, you know, that he's with.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa, who is dating this kind of 70-year-old hippie. I mean, the guy's a walking sex symbol.
Yeah.
Wilhelm Schmidt, you know, Will Smith with that, you know, G.I. Jane. And it's just unbelievable. These men could have any woman they want, and they still pick duds, and they still seem to have this lack of understanding how the game works. And that was what the boss was saying. It's like, you can be as powerful as you want, but if you don't really understand the dynamics of the dating market, the fact that, you know, we adhere to evolutionary, you know, principles, you don't understand how women think and what they respond to, you're still fucked. Doesn't matter how famous you are, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was another example, wasn't there? There's so many examples of these famous guys, but there was somebody else who came to mind before. But yeah, anyway, it doesn't really matter. But you're right. If you don't understand the dynamics, because the other thing with those people is that, because they've often had things handed to them quite easily, they've never really had to consider it that deeply. You know, they've never really had to dissect it in the way that we do. You know, spend countless hours doing. They've just never done any of that. So I think they can often get into worse traps, because they haven't ever had to really.
They had it handed to them easily. You mean?
Yeah.
You mean dating, or?
Well, yeah, just opportunities and stuff like
because
that.
Because they've been famous, you mean?
Yeah, or wealthy like Bezos or whatever, you know.
Well, have you met any famous people who do seem to get it on a level? Because there are some, obviously, that do.
Callum Best, the old London's foremost shagger of yesteryear, Callum Best.
Do you think? Did you get the impression he had good game? Then he understood this kind of system.
I don't know. I mean, I've never actually met him. I know some people that know him actually, but I never actually met him. But I mean, it just seems like, I mean, well, he's what, in his 40s, unmarried at the moment. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's a conscious choice on his part or whatever, but he seems to have sort of avoided some of the pitfalls that some people have fallen into.
Russell Brand obviously was a top shagger. He obviously understood the workings of the game.
I think he probably did. Yeah, although he's got himself in some trouble now, but yeah, I think he probably did.
But he's married, isn't he? He was one of the Spurs and cashed out the game. I mean, he actually had a what do you call it when you have it written on a book? You know, to kind of complement the book or sell the book.
And it was like a blurb,
like his endorsement of the book, Neil Strauss' game, and he was like, I went from shy wallflower to absolute slayer. Now, whether Neil Strauss, whether he actually did that, or whether it's just the fact he was famous and realised that women are throwing themselves at him.
I think, but he clearly had a skill set. You know, he clearly had this ability to charm and to bamboozle people and to sort of draw people into his world. You know, very magnetic personality. So
very great frame control. I mean, that Morning Joe interview where he went and bossed it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Probably the best example of frame control I've ever seen. Absolutely owned it, didn't he?
Yes.
So what can guys do to bring out their dark side in dating in a calibrated way? What are there any practical tips if you were leveraging our vault of 30 years of drug use? I mean, 30 years of dating coaching.
I think what it comes down to at the end is not so much thinking about how can I be more bad. It's more thinking about how can I be more selfish, or how can I put myself first more, because I think that's what a lot of people don't do. You know, whether it comes to that stereotypical example of, oh, there's this girl I really like, but she's asked me to help her move house on Saturday, so I'm going to get the car out and take all her stuff across town, or that, you know, doing that kind of thing. You know, would you be doing that if you didn't want to sleep with her? Well, probably not. So therefore, don't do it. You know, it's little things like that. I think it's not being right. How do I become Thomas Shelby? It's more, how do I put myself first more? I think that would be a good starting point for people.
That's a good idea. Is romance dead in 2025, Mr. Francis? Is there any romance? You know, if you're dating someone, do you ever think to do it? Because I think you do that very well. You put yourself first, and it's great. You're practicing what you preach. Do you ever then think tactically, you know, maybe be nice here or there to women you're dating, or do you tend to just focus on just?
No, 100%. I mean, I think there's always and then the longer a relationship goes on, inevitably, and this is the problem, and I think it's a never-ending problem that I don't know if anyone will ever really solve, because long-term relationships, long-term monogamy becomes sort of trickier as it goes along, because inevitably there's going to be some compromise, and I think it's not a bad thing to compromise to some extent on certain things, because you don't want to be this sort of Führer-esque kind of just nightmare, because that's no fun for you either. So sometimes
unless you're aware of that and you're playing it as a role, because you without attached to the role, if that makes sense.
But I mean what I tend to do, though, what I've tended to do historically is just to mess up a lot in various ways, and then overcompensate by doing romantic gestures to try and so we were talking about this on our private chat the other day, because I mean, I have done some pretty, you know, sort of sappy romantic gestures that in themselves people would say, well, that's really bad game, or that doesn't, you know, but in the context of my behavior or bad behavior, or I fucked something up or whatever, it kind of lands quite well, because you've got a sort of, you're giving highs and lows then, you know. This is completely inadvertent, by the way. This isn't because of my great game, it's just because of my chaotic lifestyle, but I think just
you could argue that is great game in the sense that you're not even having to think about it. It's naturally just happening because you're kind of devil may care, you're around doing different things. So, and actually, women are just they're a bystander of that. So it's actually really good. You're not tactically having to play this manipulative Svengali. You're just doing the behavior. Yeah, right? I think
the thing is, I think romantic gestures are great, but it's got to be in the context of somebody who's in his own frame. And the problem is that, you know, we deal with clients who, you know, they want to make romantic gestures, fine, but they're also a flannel. And so the romantic gesture is going to come across as try hard or cheesy or inauthentic or weak or supplicating, you know?
She wants you to bang the fuck out of her, right? Or take her on some crazy emotional experience. And then as an end result of that, when she's panting and she's laying in your arms, Krauser, I got this from Krauser, it worked really well. I'd you know, have some pretty intense, dominant sex with a girl, and then she'd be almost just panting, snuggled up on my chest, and I'd picked one of the, I bought the whole box set of the Little Miss books, right? The Miss Men, but you could buy the Little Miss ones. On the day before, I picked out which one of the 200 would suit her, and I crossed the name out on the first page. I write her name, and I whip it out, and I'm reading her that story, and women loved it. A well played hair crinkler on that one, because it was like the incredibly degrading dominant sex, and then you're reading them like a really nice thing, and they feel like the little girl princess in the story. And that women would talk about that for years later. They'd message me and be like, I remember this, and I'm not even speaking to them anymore. But it's creating the contrasting emotion. That's how you can see it. If you create very bad emotion, level it with some good. If you create way too much good, you've got to instill some, and it's, as you said, it's not about being an arsehole necessarily, but it's about understanding what women respond to. So delaying the text message, flirt with a girl in front of her. For a lot of guys, that horrifies them. For the girls I've dated, that turns them on. And they go home and we have really good sex. And I'm like, what? Because I always like to try and do a post-mortem when they're in that window after they fucked you, because for once they're honest. And they're like, yeah, it really turned me on. I've got really jazzed. It really turned me on that you're speaking to that girl. And I knew she wanted you. So their revenge, have intense sex with you. We've got to understand we do not think the same as men as women do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's naive to just think what I want is what she wants. No, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And too many men think that, for sure. How long have
with men, we want the easy life. We want the snuggles. We want to be just on the couch with our Doritos and our boxers, just chilling, right? We've conquered the world. We don't have to do fuck all. Women do not want that. That's not.
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday, of this idea about narrative, about story. Are you is there a story happening here? Is there a narrative, or is it just, I'm an open book guy. I'm a decent dude. I've got a 401k. Let's get married, and and that's it. And it's going to be the graph is going to be like that for the entire way through. That's not really what you should be bringing. You want there to be some ups and downs, right? Because otherwise, people just get bored.
I think that's a great frame to put in. Is like, what archetype are you playing for yourself? Because it's exciting, but also presenting to women, and that actually can sort out a lot of the behavior because it's filtered through this frame. So guys, we talked about this before. They should read A Billion Wicked Thoughts, because it's 500 million internet searches from men and 500 million from women of what women respond, and all the data compiled, what women actually watch, what turns them on, and what they respond to. And it comes down into male archetypes, right? So there's the powerful billionaire dude, the 50 Shades of Grey guy. There's the kind of devil-may-care bad boy like the James Dean. There's the intellectual seducer like the Russell Brand. And you've got to think, right, what archetype could I fit into? Because that's how women see men. They fit them into archetypes. So you don't have to be a pirate or a werewolf. That's fine. Unless you want to be. You could be a pirate werewolf, which would be quite a werewolf pirate, which would be weird, but also wacky. But you've got to understand that, men and women were not the same. Like we respond to things. The biggest sex organ you have to stimulate in a woman is the brain, right? Narrative, history, creation. I know from putting out some of this content of me in a suit with a car and a hot blonde with no explanation as a clip. Women who've ignored me for 3 years are coming out of the woodwork going, James, that's me up. And I'm just, it's so ridiculous. Again, part of you dies because you're just like, oh God, is it really like this?
Is it really this sort of like clockwork? You just do.
It is though, status cues. And that actually goes to a question up here we've got from a guy, and he said, what is something about looks, money, status?
Oh, yeah.
Video. Please rank what's most important, looks, money, or status. Well, we should put game in there as well. Looks, money, status, or game. So, Mr. Francis, the court is yours. What's the most important?
Status, I think.
Yeah, status trumps everything. Because if you look at fame, right? Fame is the ultimate aphrodisiac for women.
Because you don't have to be that good looking if you're famous.
No, look at Mick Hucknall, right? Singer of Simply Red. He slept with, 2,000 women? I mean, he looks like a fucking orange porcupine, right?
Terrible songs as well.
Jeremy as well. I mean, he was a porn star, admittedly, but imagine how many birds he banged.
Yeah. So, I mean, beyond that, so then you got, if you had it between looks and money, it's a tricky one. I mean, unfortunately,
money, because money can buy you a lifestyle that women don't.
I was going to say that. I think that is the right answer. The issue with that is, then guys are going to think, okay, so I've just got to be earning six figures or multiple six figures, and then all my problems are going to be solved. And it's not quite as simple as that. And this is where the game piece comes in, because there's plenty of guys who've got money, but they're not very successful in terms of dating or relationships because they don't understand the dynamics. But yes, you've got status first, and then you've got money, because money can buy status or the appearance of status, and often they come hand in hand.
Do you think that trumps game then? So a broke, tortured artist who has incredible understanding of game, a guy with no game but money, the money trumps the game.
Well, I think like maybe the money in the game are sort of like alongside each other, because I think you really need both.
I mean, we met guys though incredibly wealthy who are just fucking clueless. I mean, again, the guy we met in Bogota, CEO worth $4 billion, and yet could not hold a conversation with a woman, and they just could not give a fuck how much money he's worth. Not that he was flaunting it, but he wasn't pulling a muscle, was he?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the game is really social understanding. It's understanding how all this stuff comes together. So it's understanding human beings inside out. That's how I class game, and I class it as mastering influence and persuasion with human beings, whether they're men, women, to get what you want. So I would actually say status probably the very top, right? Status hierarchies, we're all hairless apes. Top 8 has his pick, but beneath that, I'd say probably game, then money, and then looks. And I know from being a good-looking, in-shape guy with no game that they might get you the foot in the door, but as soon as women go, his self-perception isn't congruent with how he looks, or he doesn't really get it, or he's a bit anxious, you're not getting laid.
You're out the window. You're out the door.
And we still know, obviously, Joe, who incredibly jacked alpha dude, looks like Hugh Jackman, but straight, cannot pull a muscle.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm just joking, Joe, if you're watching.
Yeah.
No,
do we want to do any more of these, or?
Yeah. Ask the question, sure.
Okay, so So this is a troll. If cold approach actually worked, every man and his dog would be doing it. They probably wouldn't actually, because most guys don't.
It's hard.
Stop using the term cold approach. It's not 2012, man.
And they wouldn't be doing it because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
So it's painful. No one likes rejection, so that's why people don't.
I had a realization recently that I subconsciously believed that women didn't want me to be confident because I am me. As if I was supposed to outsource my wealth to her, it's supplicating at its core. Okay, interesting. So this one, how often do you guys have friendly dates where the date goes nowhere? Very, very infrequently, because ideally she should know what's up before you get to the stage of actually going on a date. So when they actually come on the date, they are somewhat pre-qualified in the sense that not necessarily that they're going to want to get intimate with you or whatever, but it shouldn't just diffuse into friendliness, because she already knows that the frame is not that you want to be friends with her, but that it's man to woman. So it should happen incredibly rarely, because the people.
I've seen you on multiple dates with women, and it's game on straight away. And it's the same with me. Like we're doing it, and I'm looking a certain way, and I line up with that archetype. So I am the fast, sex, adventurous, fast guy. I'm in town for a week. I tell them I'm not here. They know I'm foreign. I've had the balls to approach them. They're like, okay, this is the guy I might bang as the dirty secret. But I know I'm going to have sex with him. Then we're going on the dates and fast escalation as well, because we know we're only in town for a week. So everything's lining up, and we'll get higher flake rates at the front part of the process, the front part of the funnel. But the girls will come out typically on dates with us, and before Troy was in a relationship. The sex, it's likely to happen, isn't it? Quite fast.
It should be. Yeah, I mean, by the time you're actually sitting on the date, it should be. She knows what's up, and she's there for that to happen. Now, it's not to say that it's going to happen every single time, because obviously things go wrong, whatever. But it shouldn't be just sort of then dissolving into this friendly sort of chat. That shouldn't be happening. And if it is happening a lot, then there's something going wrong at the front end. So however you're meeting these people, maybe you're meeting them off the dating apps or something like that. That could be part of the problem. But if you're doing this, if you're meeting people in real life, then they should be pre-filtered,
And also the way you approach them, right? It's not normal. We forget how powerful this is, but if you roll up in a calibrated way and stop a girl, tell her she looks cute, tease her, make her feel a certain way, she's just like, this guy is confident as fuck. She's put you in the lover category, because that's not how normal nice guys meet women, right? So then all you've got to do is be congruent, turn up and actually escalate and try and fuck her.
Yeah, it has happened to me the other way around though. where you turn up on a date, and this is actually using online. You know, you turn up on a date, and the person isn't quite what you hoped, and then you're like, oh, I know what you. I know you just send them straight back in the taxi. Sometimes I've sort of been a bit nicer about it and said, oh, okay, I'll sit here for a drink when I'm not interested. Do you know what I mean? That's the only way round that it's really happened.
You play the woman in this role.
Well, no, just like, you know, oh, okay, all right. She's
let them down gently, or take them back for a kind of sympathy porking. What do you do?
No, I didn't. I wouldn't go that far, but so this is an odd one. Guys, I approached a very hot young girl who could be 19 and said, you look good. And she says, I don't care, in a harsh tone. Is that an expected reaction for Daygame?
I mean, again, you're saying it. This strikes me as, I'm being a bit presumptuous, but it strikes me as this like the one approach you've done this year. Go and do 20, 30 approaches a week, and then things will even out, and you're not going to be worrying about one reaction from a girl.
Yeah. I mean, you know, any reaction could happen. I mean, anything's possible. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get this kind of reaction. So what? You know, go and do 100 more, and then come back.
All with 100, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, he's talking about why guys find it hard to take this stuff on board, because us talking to them after they've been hearing the opposite their whole lives obviously doesn't fly because they've been conditioned. That's true. This is a good one. Should I dress very well to get more notice if I do that? No, you should dress. You should dress really badly. You should dress really badly. That's the best thing to do.
Because he's called Max Muller, I'm getting this kind of flashback of that blonde dude from Tomorrow Never Dies, the really bad guy.
Yeah.
He's called Stomper or whatever he's called, dressing like tight. Let's hope he's dressed like that.
Yeah. Yeah, dress well if you can. We've done that one, and then we got some more from Mr.
We're not doing homicide. We're not doing homicides. Chat. I mean, it must be a subconscious way of competing for amazing opportunities. No, it's definitely not. It's just people robbing phones.
Do you usually kiss before inviting her home? It's difficult to escalate since the bar close to my place only has 2 seats opposite each other. I would tend to, yeah, but I know there's a little bit of debate on that subject. I would tend to, yeah, because you might as well, you know.
I've stopped actually now.
Really?
Yeah, but it's after 10 years of just thinking, right, I want to make out with them. Almost a signpost to me to make sure they're up for it. I now will kind of spring on them and do what Mr. B, Brett did back in the day, which is never really kiss them and build that sexual tension.
Yeah. Okay, so there's different ways to skin a cat, but yeah, it's down to you really. I mean, in terms of they've only got seats opposite each other, that's not ideal. Is there nowhere else you could go? Even if
I mean, I would be standing. The cheat code there is go to if it's a packed bar, stand next to her because you can touch her, you can come in really close. I actually think it's preferable to sitting because you're more dynamic and you can get in close. And I prefer standing date at a bar if I can.
Yeah. Top 5 European locations to meet. Wow.
Okay.
He probably means women.
Interesting. Blackpool, Skegness.
Yeah.
Yeoviltown. Skegness.
Yeah. Bristol might be all right, actually.
I mean, London would probably be in the top 5. I always slag it off, and I've been running away from it for 7 years. But there are 10 million people, and there are hot women. London you can't really argue with. Moscow and St. Petersburg, the sheer amount of hot girls there. Not that anyone's going to go right now, but from our experience, I mean, there's just thousands of hot single feminine women, aren't there?
Yeah. Warsaw's
pretty good. It's pretty good. I always like Barcelona. I don't know why, but it's quite well out there. There's lots of melting pot of tourism, and of course, the one that I'm going to be in 2 weeks' time, if anyone wants to drop by, is Istanbul. Absolutely love that place, and I agree with you. I think Turkish women are just they're smoke shows, aren't they?
Indeed, they are. This is a good one. How do you invite her home?
Yeah, I mean, usually I just say, let's get out of here, pay the bill, and start walking to my place, and that's it. And at some stage, if she asks, I just say, oh, we're going to mine. You can put on the music. I've got to be up early. Let's have a drink. Very nonchalant, and I don't really give a fuck if she actually comes anymore. Yeah, because I've done that process so much that it's just lackadaisical, so that they're way more likely to come. Whereas if you're chomping at the bit to get laid,
So it's sort of just don't make a big deal about it. Just be like, oh, let's just go, let's just grab a couple of drinks or whatever, or just keep it very low key, very casual, and like he said, the issue that people have is that the more that you want something, the more it tends to elude you.
Why is that? You know what? I'm going to type that into the boss after this. Why the things we need why did the universe take away the things we're desperate to get until we don't give a fuck? Then it's the law of the opposite you get given them. Why is that? There must be something.
I don't know, but I think the less you care, the more success you get, and but probably that goes for even for business stuff. I don't know, but it's certainly.
Well, then if you really don't care at all, you're not even doing the thing, are you?
True.
You just don't fuck. So what's the balance there? Because I agree with you. Whenever I stop caring about the thing, it's suddenly delivered to me. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I suppose you've got to be. I don't know. It's a fine distinction. I suppose you've got to be in the arena. If you're not even in the arena, it's obviously not going to happen. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I just you get all these guys who are complaining about people flaking and like, oh my god, like flaking is so bad. And I was finding the opposite problem, that I was always hoping that they were going to flake and they would never flake.
You just want
what I mean? Yeah. Just a cup of Earl Grey tea and like listening to LBC back in the hotel room.
I mean, and ironically, they're all chomping at the bit. I love the names of these characters. So Dark Arts 59. I drive a limo as a part-time job, and girls are attracted to it. Like flies to are women that shallow? Well, women just will assess for status cues, right? So power, status, where you fit in the hierarchy. You can cheat the system, and actually, this is the narrative we're going into now, which is try and build your online presence. Instagram is the world's best dating app. Try and build that alongside doing the cold approach, and we're working with a guy who makes that happen, right? Creates the narrative for you to showcase to women, which acts as a digital leverage system as you're out doing your rep. So.
Yeah. When you think about it, it's actually not shallow. When you think about it, it's actually extremely
sensible, isn't it? But
it's actually
But you can cheat the system because there's no one to actually check, right? Yeah. So if you start,
there might be with Head when it's like she's like, oh, can we go for a drive? It's like, oh, sorry, it's 5 p.m. I've got to drop the car off or I get fired. But whatever, I mean, you can certainly give the impression of that lifestyle.
Yes, you can. King Leonidas, afternoon, chaps. So final question, as I've got to jump on with Mr. Pterodactyl. Sorry for all the questions, but I literally just came back from a friendly date. One last question. Do you have a copy and paste feeler text message that you send to girls after meeting in Daygame? The classic one from Torero used to be, hey, insert tease. Hey, blonde flamingo, if she had long legs. Nice to meet you earlier. Are you always so friendly when you guys winky face? That used to be the standard template. And what you wanted to say is, no, I'm not friendly with all guys. It's just you. So she's kind of elevating in her mind as a response. So you could just use that as the standard thing, actually.
Or you could just put, hey, it's whatever your name is. Hey, it's Aurelius,
Hey, it's King Leonidas.
You could just do that because if the argument being that if they're interested, if they want to reply, they're going to reply, right? It doesn't really. You don't.
Mr. M's message was always just simply, "Hey, it's Mr. M," and there is a certain high valueness to that because how would DiCaprio text? He's not going to be like, "Oh, this is the guy from Blood Diamond." What did you think? It's just Leo, right? There is a certain high value nature to that.
But I wouldn't overthink it. I mean, the other good route to do is what James said.
What do you tend to, well, no, you're in a relationship now, but what did you, when you were in your single days, what did you tend to send?
I tended to do that. Actually inspired by Mr. M, I tended to just go Mr. M and just be like, hey, it's Troy. And that was it. And then if they respond, they respond. If they don't, they don't. And again,
it's interesting, isn't it? I guess it doesn't need to fit your personality though, because you like a bit of banter as well. So could you argue being a bit more banterous because it's
I do, but I don't like to show too much investment right up front, because if you do this carefully crafted, you spend 15 minutes figuring out, oh, what's she wearing, how can I make a joke about that, blah blah blah, and you send like too much, I think that looks like overinvestment. So I quite like at the beginning just very brief, and then if she bites, then you can get into a bit more banter, and I do like a bit of banter then. But I think right at the beginning, it's literally a feeler. It's literally, is she even going to respond to this thing or not? Now you could argue if it was more clever and more witty, maybe that would make it more likely, but I don't really think so.
There was the Heart East article, which is always text women like there's 5 models in your bed. How would you text the girl, right? There's the argument like that. You'd probably just say, hey, it's
yeah, exactly. So that was the logic to it. Do you guys? So
where are we going to be in the next? I still think. I mean, look, you're on the ground. Your boots on the ground more than me in London, Stan. I come back every few months, but I'm not really active. I'll stay for a couple of days, see parents and family, and fuck off again. What is it like? Do you think bloke to bloke doing day game.
I think still fine. I think it's still,
probably better in some ways, because I reckon the whole day game community's kind of died a bit in the UK, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know many creepy guys doing it. I don't know if that's true or not. We keep hearing reports that there's fewer people doing it. You know, again, it's making it into this fetishized thing. I mean, we're talking about talking to other human beings, but I don't know if that's true or not. We've heard the opposite, but I mean, look, there's 10 million people here. It's, you know, I mean, it's there are many opportunities. So yeah, I think it's still good. I mean, you know, it depends what your taste is and all the rest of it, but pretty much everything's catered for.
Does one need to be a bit more test for interest and, you know, almost a slightly more asexual way, given the wokosphere nature of, say, the UK?
Well, possibly, but I think that's even a little bit overstated, to be honest. I think you know, I think most people, unless you were extremely unlucky, I think most people, if you went over and just said, "Oh, hey, I like your style," I don't think anyone's going to call the police over that. You know what I mean? If it's innocuous and you're just polite and well presented and everything, I think it's fine.
So, final comment from Aurelius. Cheers for all the value you guys have put out over the years. No problem. Thank you for that. It's taken me a while, but I'm finally to get their hand at the day game. Well, instead of finally taking, there's this idea with game that it has to be this horrible grind you put yourself through. It does not, because you can come out to Warsaw with us in a couple of weeks in September and shortcut the process by leveraging our 25 years combined experience with this, where we put you through your paces, we show you all your blind spots, and you don't have to just be grinding through it like throwing shit against the wall, hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
Right. So Warsaw, 25th of September to the 28th, and the following weekend, 2nd to 5th of October. A couple of spaces remaining for that. Myself, Les, and Troy will be teaching day game 5 hours a day for 4 days. And then Bogota, Halloween, House of Seduction. You live with us for 7 days, all day game, all day night game. And at the end of each day, we compile everyone's leads, get them to invite friends, and make a massive house party in the house. Right. So epic. We did it before. It was epic. So if you guys would like to join either of those two boot camps, and the only boot camps we're running this year, Warsaw mid-September or Bogota, they're both going to be epic. So get in touch, troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestuss.com. Send us an email with the title Warsaw or Bogota, and we will see you there.
Good stuff. Okay, we'll see you again very soon, guys. Bye-bye.